For more on what the latest moves in crypto mean for the broader market moving forward, we want to welcome in Ben Emmons, FedWatch Advisors founder and chief investment officer. Ben, it's good to see you. So here we were talking about Bitcoin and crypto more broadly there with Sean Farrell. He's got that 115, 120 target that he thinks we could get to in the sort of near to medium term. How are you seeing the interplay between Bitcoin and other assets? Are we seeing some of the money that's going into Bitcoin? Is it coming at the expense of anything else?
Hi, Julie. No, I don't think it actually is, because the flows into Bitcoin ETFs are big. It's something like 100 billion of total AUM. So a lot of money moves in, but so have equity flows since the election. So that's kind of a parallel. And I think bond fund inflows are not really changed as much either. So it's in liquidity environment we're currently in. And I think it's really driven by the election that is leading to these animal spirits once again revived, thinking of we're going to go into an economy that's going to be a lot of investment. And you were just talking about like this Doge, this cutting of the government, and then crowding out will be change and we get more investment. So you get all this animal spirits, leads to liquidity in the markets. And Bitcoin is very sensitive to that aspect, to liquidity. And I think that's the connection here for the broader markets. We may not be so much in an environment like 2021 when it was frothy, but this is more about we're going to potentially really go into a different environment next year with the economy, with faster growth and more liquidity. Then yes, Bitcoin should be trading at higher levels. So breaking 100,000 is quite likely here.
Ben, how do you think about what the appropriate role of Bitcoin is in somebody's portfolio?
There's a big debate because, on the one hand, it's an asset that's been, driven by speculation. There's a lot of confusion still. Is it the store of value or currency and that sort of thing? But at the end of the day, it is an asset that has performed exceptionally well. So from a diversification standpoint, something that performs really well, that obviously is really the right way to diversify, right? It would be different if it has a lot of drawdowns very, very frequently. Now, it does have that. I want to emphasize that it's not in volatility. It's not an asset that doesn't have any volatility. But we also have to be mindful of that. It's a separate alternative asset. So it plays a clear role now in asset allocation. People want to own it. And as a result, it's going to be a good diversification.
Ben, I know you've also been watching the relationship between Bitcoin and other assets. You're looking at, for example, the Bitcoin to dollar ratio versus the 10-year yield. What are your conclusions, I guess, when you look at that chart?
Yeah, so there's an interesting sort of correlation here that it seems that each time that ratio goes up, which means that Bitcoin is really outperforming the dollar, that we're in an environment of where there's a lot of liquidity in markets. There's a lot of optimism and spirit. There's also an economy that shows acceleration, whether that was back then in 2016, 17, or back out of the pandemic, right, in 2020, 2021. And now we currently have, and that does drive to higher interest rates, higher yields. There's a bit of connection there. But it's also interesting to look at that ratio compared to the copper gold ratio that people have sometimes looked at, making a direction interest rates going down. So I think this is really an indicator of rates going higher, because Bitcoin, I think, ultimately is really an asset of, on the one hand, maybe, I guess, pure speculation, but really because people are very optimistic, enthusiastic about the outlook, and therefore willing to buy Bitcoin as an asset.
Ben, we're still waiting for who President-elect Trump is going to nominate for Treasury Secretary, different names being floated out there, Bessent, Warsh, Mark Rowan. How do you think about those possible candidates, Ben, and in terms of how they might impact crypto?
Yeah, they all have different views on it, right? I once watched an interview with Mark Rowan. He was quite negative on crypto, whereas the others have sort of a mixed view on it. But I think in this particular situation is that this next Treasury Secretary likely would have to take a very different view on crypto than Janet Yellen did. She was very outspoken. It was a speculative asset and had not much meaning. If this crypto czar is being put in place, there will be clearly a relationship between that person and the Treasury. Treasury ultimately is about the dollar policy. So I thought of it more like it may become like this crypto, strong crypto policy, like the strong dollar policy from the 90s. If Trump is serious about making it a crypto reserve, just like we have the exchange rate reserve for the dollar. And I think that's where the real link is. And I would think that a person like Kevin Warsh or Scott Bessent would be very pro-crypto for that matter. And linking that to the fact that you have an asset that people want to buy because they're so optimistic about the economy, and that's the message they want to bring out, obviously, to the public.
Well, we'll see how it all shakes out. Ben, good to see you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you.